Hello, David. David Atkinson. Welcome to Paso del Camino, a project within the Camino Santiago to the Camino Santiago, and it's really such a pleasure for me to have you here, to have the opportunity to talk with you about the Camino. It's a passion for us both. Thank you so much
Yes, it's
for
true.
doing this with me. It's really
I'm
really a
happy to be
pleasure.
here. I'm happy to
Um,
be here.
so let's start from the beginning, right? How how your story with the Camino had begun?
Well, my story of the Camino began more than 10 years ago. I was with a friend who actually I think put us in touch, Ricardo Blanco in Mexico. He's one of my closest friends. He's as much a brother to me as anybody. And I was at his house in Mexico, and his brother, Jorge, or Jaime, I forget. No, Jaime had said, "Oh, I just did the Camino. You have to do it." And I thought, "Oh, I've heard so many of these were expressions of, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that." I didn't think about it. About a few months later, Ricardo calls me and he says, "Let's do the Camino." And I said, "Wow." And I could hear the excitement in his voice. And so I said, "I love it, but wait a minute." So I talked to my wife, Marta Luz, and she was terrific. And she said, "I support you, go and do it." And so we began planning to do the Camino in 2011. And we were trading back and forth and emails and phone calls and so on. And then he went silent. And he went completely silent, and he wouldn't respond to my calls, my emails. And then about 2 months later, he said, "I am so sorry, but I have had to take a job and I cannot do the Camino with you." And I didn't want to even tell you this because I felt so bad. So I said, "Well, okay, well, maybe another day." And I went to my wife, Marta Luz, and I said, "Luz, Ricardo can't do it. I guess we're not going." And she said, "Well, then why don't we go?" And I said, "Okay." And we did. And we went in the spring, March, April of 2011. And we started in Roncesvalles. And we did about a half of the Camino. We suspended it after around Leon for family issues back at home. So we decided not to continue. She was very brave. She had a bad foot, which we found out later was a broken bone, but she kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And so we did about more than half of the Camino. But I fell in love. I fell in love, and then I went with Ricardo in 2013, and then I went back myself alone in 2014. And then I did the Portuguese Camino in 2016, 2017. And then in 2018, I did the Camino del Norte and the Primitivo. And in 2019, I did the Aragonés. And I was going to go back. Excuse me.
Don't
Let me
worry,
just
you got
hold
a
on.
call. You got a call. I know.
Excuse me. No, I just cut it off. And so and I was going to go back in 2020 to do the Camino Primitivo, because when I did the Primitivo in 2018, there was a big snowstorm, so we
Oh,
had to jump over a big
okay,
piece of the
okay.
Camino.
You
And
couldn't
anyway,
do the hospital. It's the best part of this.
so I was going to go back and do that, right? So that's maybe too long a story, but that's how it all started.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So after that first part of the Camino where you fell in love, it kind of is something for me because my first Camino was kind of awkward. Let me put it like this. No, okay, it was on bike. It was 5 years ago, and
Uh-huh.
at that time, I still ride, but less than that 5 years ago. But I used to ride a lot of bike, so I decided to do my first Camino was on bike,
Yep.
and it's not the same. It's not the same.
No.
Okay, pilgrims could have the same feelings, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's not the same. For me,
No.
walking is it's a real deal.
Yep.
I hope people doesn't get me wrong, but for
No,
for
no,
for
no.
the
I there was a, do you know Acacio?
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think we talked about him. I think it was Acacio or somebody who said, look, it's your individual choice. Everybody has his or her own way of doing the Camino. So you have the bicyclists, you have the walkers. There was one guy who did it in a wheelchair. You know that.
Yeah,
And so, no, each person chooses his or her own way to do the
it's your
Camino.
choice. It's just so it was, but at that point in my life, it was my best experience ever. You know, but I was let me in a bad place in my life at that time before the Camino, and the Camino it was kind of an open-minded experience that
Yep,
helped me a lot. But it was
yep,
a week. It was 8 days from my hometown that we are, I don't know, 115 miles from Santiago, I guess,
hmm,
more or less. And going and back, it was more or less 8 days riding a bike. Uh, and when I arrived in Santiago, I didn't know almost nothing about it. So I just sit there on the Plaza do Obradoiro, then went to pick up the Compostela where I started a fight between an Englishman and American guy because of the Brexit. Nice story about racism, but that's another story. And then to the Seminari Menor, that it's one of the big albergs around there. And then the next morning came back. So for me, being a religious Catholic Roman uh, faith, it was kind of awkward not going to the cathedral the first time that I had done this pilgrimage. But nevertheless, or regarding not entering the cathedral that first time, the Camino changed my life, and that's it's the main point.
excuse me, but Guillermo, the first time you did it, you did not go into the cathedral?
Yeah, yeah, the first time I
And,
did
and
not.
why was that?
Why? Because I don't know. At that time, at that point, I didn't know where to left my bike, where to left my backpack. I was,
Ah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
that's why, and I was kind of afraid for someone to stole me or to lost them, and
Yep,
I was really short-handed in terms of money. So if I lost my bike or my backpack, I was it could be really hard for me. So
sure.
mainly because of that. And now, if at this point, if I could go back that time 5 years ago, of course I know what to do. But at that moment, not. And that's actually the main reason, because I didn't know what left the bike and my backpack.
Sure.
But regarding that, and this is the main point, the Camino and Saint James changed my life. And there were some bumps on the way after the Camino, but a few months later, everything changed. Everything. And when I realized this, uh, I decided. I decided to go back to Camino, just to say thank you. Just say thank you.
The Camino that you did the first time was the Frances?
Not the Portuguese. I'm Portuguese. I do the Portuguese.
Ah, it was the Portuguese. The Portuguese. That's right.
So at this time, I have 3 times the Portuguese, the Primitivo, and last year the Winter Camino.
Oh yes, you told me.
Not to be compared to a Camino in winter. It was the Winter Camino, but it was
I
on
know.
summer.
I know.
So, but there were some moments on the first time on the Portuguese Caminos mainly. Then the Primitivo, it was another stuff. But there was 2 moments. My first walking arrival, and then a big moment in Padron on the Portuguese Camino.
Yes.
There I told you about it.
No. You didn't tell me the detail.
Yeah, but I'll tell you later. But that moment kind of put me in a place that I can say right now that the Camino is my life. And that is my motivation to keep walking, and then my next question, it's kind of about that. So where is your motivation to keep walking after that first Camino? You have so many Caminos more, and I guess you're just thinking to come back when it's possible.
Well, you can see that I have come outside.
Yeah.
This is my.
Don't worry.
This is my backyard.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. Anyway, the Camino for me is, excuse me for the noise here. The Camino for me, I love it for, well, let me give you a little background. I worked at the Inter-American Development Bank. So I had a job in development banking. And so, but what I love, I used to climb mountains. I used to run marathons. That was the kind of sport that I enjoyed, the kind of outdoors. I love that. I'm not climbing any more mountains and I'm not running any more marathons, but the Camino is a way that I can continue to be physically active. But also it combines other things. For instance, the quiet and the capacity to be alone on the Camino is a gift. At the same time, the camaraderie that you establish with other pilgrims, it's a wonderful balance. I like that. I worked most of my life in and around Latin America, and I am bilingual, so I feel very much at home in northern Spain. And it's a nice complement to the more than 40 years that I spent working in Latin America. Well, actually 55 years working in Latin America, living in Latin America. So to me, it's very interesting that the historical side, the cultural side, and the food and the drink and the wine. I mean, the Camino has so many advantages to it, and each Camino is a different one. I mean, one could say, well, I still want to go other parts of the world, but in the Camino alone, you have so many different alternatives, and every time you do the Camino, it's different, every single time. And another thing is, and another thing is to establish relationships not only with other peregrinos, but also with the hospitaleros, to establish a relationship with those hospitaleros who have really invested in them, and there are a couple of them. There's Mincho in the Hospital Verde in the Albergue Verde in Hospital de Órbigo. I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
Yes, there's as I say, Acacio and Orieta in Viloria de Rioja. There are a number of just wonderful people that have dedicated themselves to the Camino, and to establish a relationship with them is also very important for me. And you know, another thing it is, Guillermo, is it motivates me because you know, I want to keep moving, I want to keep walking, I want to keep I want to keep it's a goal for me. For instance, I want to go in October, November. I pray that I will be allowed to go into Spain because of COVID. Hopefully it'll be under control. And so that's something that drives me on a day-by-day basis to take care of myself, to exercise. I go and I'd love to buy equipment for the Camino. I just went and get a new pair of poles. So it's a driver that keeps me alive.
That's really amazing. So, do you know, this is, I don't know, but in 100 pilgrims, 99 had walked the Camino more than one time more. I've walked several more. You, me, and a lot of people are really attracted to Camino for several reasons. For everything that Camino has and provides to you.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what have this ancient pilgrimage that can attract people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, from different religions, people are rich, people poor, and that make us doing the same, being equals at the time. So what have these ancient pilgrims that are really special for a lot of people?
In other words, why do I think?
Yeah, in your opinion.
Why do I think that thousands and thousands and thousands of people have gone back to it for so many times?
Yeah.
Over centuries? Well, certainly the religious was without any question the initial driver. You know, from I think the first. The first pilgrimages I began in the 9th century, I believe, and certainly there was the religious. There is the adventure. There is the challenge. There is you know, each and every person has his and her own reason to do it. Some people, this is not necessarily my case, but some people have crises in their lives and they choose to do the Camino to work that out. I understand that. I think there's another reason, and I think this applies to me in a way, Guillermo.
Yeah.
The Camino establishes, our lives, unfortunately, no matter what age we are and so on, we have so many commitments. We have so many, you know, we have the internet and we have iPhones and we have, there's a busyness about our lives that we all have. one of the things that I most cherish about the Camino, and I think this applies to others, is the simplicity. And I mean that with great honor.
Yeah.
The simplicity of the Camino is you have one goal, you have one mission, it drives you every single day. You have the independence in this sense that the simplicity also that everything you need in the world at that time you have on your back in terms of taking care of yourself. And to reduce your life to that degree of simplicity in terms of what drives you every day, how you can take care of yourself every day, that appeals to me. And I frankly, I think that appeals to a lot of people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, David, let's go from hard question.
Saúde.
Cheers. Let's go for hard question. So,
go ahead.
I guess it's for me. It's really difficult to answer this, even more for you. So, imagine that you could go back to your best moment on the Camino. Which moment you choose?
Wow.
I told you. I warned you.
No, it's okay. No, wait a minute. I have to go get my little charger to charge my phone. So don't go away. I want to answer that. I want to answer that carefully because that's a very good question. Hold on just 1 second. I have a charger and I will stay outside.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can edit these. You can edit this later, can't you?
I can. I don't know how to do it, but I can.
Well, a special moment on the Camino. Well, I have to say, without any question, my arrival in Santiago the first time has to be a highlight, without any question. So hold on just 1 second. Let me plug in my phone. I have to say that when I arrived in 2013, my first arrival in Santiago I was very, very moved. There's without any question. So there will be other moments that occur to me. But for the moment, I have to say that that's probably one of the tops. Now, but there are moments which are unforgettable. I will give you an example. It's maybe too much information, as they say.
No, please.
I will say it.
Please do.
Well, I was doing the Camino del Norte, and it has certain stretches, Guillermo, which pass along these cliffs high above the ocean. And there was one morning when I was going along and I looked down at the beaches below. There were very few people on the Camino at the time. I think it was, I forget what month it was, August, September, something like that. And I said to myself, I was entirely alone. I didn't see anybody down there. And so I said, well, I have to go down. I have to go down to the beach. I have to go into the water. I have to go in swimming. And so I found some stairs and I walked down. It's very steep, but I walked down. I got to the beach. I took off my pack. I took off my jacket. I took off all my clothes, but I kept on my shorts. And I ran into the water, Guillermo. And I filmed myself, by the way. It's all being filmed. I'm alone. There's no one on the beach. Absolutely. And this huge, long beach with these beautiful gray granite cliffs. And I run into the water. It's very, very cold, but it is absolutely exhilarating. And I just swim for a couple of minutes. I feel the cold. I feel the exhilaration of the water. And then I come back out. I dry myself off. I put on my clothes again. I put on my backpack. I take up my poles, and I'm about to go back up the cliff to the stairs. I stop. And I turn around and I said, wait a minute, there's one last thing I have to do. So I went through the entire process with one change. I went in completely naked. Completely naked. Of course, I was filming the whole thing, completely naked. It was one of them. I felt as if I were 7 years old, Guillermo. I was 77 at the time. I felt as if I were 7 years old. It was the most beautiful, exhilarating experience to just throw myself in there completely nude, and then I said, aha, now I've done what I need to do.
That's amazing. So David, now I kind of have a surprise for you. So how is your Spanish?
My Spanish is pretty good. My Spanish is pretty good.
Okay, that's nice. Just one moment.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna get a little charger for my phone. Don't worry. Don't worry. Hold on.
I'm not worried.
Momentinho. Aguarda un minuto.
Hola David, ¿cómo estás?
No puede ser.
No eras para ver esto. Aún no.
No puede ser. No, carajo.
Calma.
No te veo.
Calma que no está aquí. Aún. No está aquí, calma.
Espérate un segundo.
No está aquí.
Momentito.
Te ha dicho que no está aquí.
No.
Pero
aquí ¿dónde es? Aquí no es Portugal. Debe estar en México, ¿no?
Tampoco está en México. Está en México, sí. Pero siéntate, por favor. Sit down, please. I will show you.
Espérate un segundo. Tengo que enchufar mi teléfono que está perdiendo de energía y yo tengo que prepararme para este momento histórico. A ver.
No está en directo, ¿vale? No está aquí.
Salud.
¿Vale? Ahora.
A ver. ¡Oh!
Aquí contando los días para regresar al camino. El camino
Mira.
de San Salvador ahora en noviembre. Yo sé que tú caminas muy lento, pero de verdad es un honor. Y es uno de los grandes regalos que me dejó el camino. Bien sabes que eres mi hermano, ¿no? Y pues un abrazo para todos allá en Estados Unidos. Un abrazo para ti también, Guillermo, allá en Portugal. Cuídense mucho y espero verlos pronto allá haciendo el camino.
Wow.
How's that?
Wow. But you just reminded me, Guillermo, you just reminded me of another magical moment.
Yeah, please
which I wrote down in a book.
Yeah, my next questions will be about your books, but please share it.
Okay, there was this in the book. I did a book called A Camino for Enrique, which I would be happy to talk about. But
yeah, we'll talk about it. We will be talking about this.
I met these two crazy people. And you just put one of them on the screen there. And it was the day that we unfortunately had to take a van to go about 160 kilometers because of a snowstorm. So we couldn't walk. So we got in this van. This was on the Camino Primitivo. And we ended up in a little town, which was the first town that was low enough that there was no snow. We went into the first albergue.
Polla de Allande.
Excuse me?
Polla de Allande es su nombre. The name of the
Wow.
town. The name of the town.
Wow. Wow. It could be. Right. I'm trying to remember. But anyway, we went into the albergue, and the woman who was in charge there was extremely rude, extremely rude. As she said, I forget exactly what she said. I put it in my book, but I thought to myself, I'm on the Camino for the love of the people, for the love of the moment. I do not need this. And I turned around and walked out.
Yeah.
And at this point, because at this point there were about 6 of us. There was my dear Mexican friend, a Polish woman, a Spaniard, a Frenchman, and a beautiful, I think she was Dutch. Anyway.
Yeah.
And they were a little behind me. I turned around and walked out and I said, I'm not staying here. And so they just said, okay, we're not staying here either. And we started walking. It was late in the afternoon. It's late in the afternoon. When we started walking, we did not have any idea where we were going to end up. And about 10 kilometers down the road, we came to this absolutely beautiful, beautiful albergue. It was newly opened. It was one of those places that had been done with such love and much charm. We fell in love with the place. We had a wonderful meal. We had some wine. And I have taped this. And if you ever want to hear it, I know, excuse me, it's in my book.
Yeah.
After a couple of bottles of wine, we each decided, what did the Camino mean to us? And we said it with love, with affection, and a little wine. And it was another one of the most magical moments that I had ever had on the Camino. That was another one.
Do you know the name?
I will find it for you.
Peña Seita?
Hold on just one second.
Peña
Just one
Seita.
second.
No,
Hold on. No, I will, hold on one second.
Yeah.
So, momento. Ay. This is it. Excuse me, I'm getting the book.
Yeah, don't worry.
Aguardo un minuto.
Tranquilo.
Aguardo un minuto.
That's okay.
So I will find it.
While you try to find that,
Go ahead.
let me just tell you a story.
Tell me a story. Tell me, please.
On the Primitivo it kind of is really special for me. Maybe it was the most special Camino for me because I had some problems on the first day, not physical, but psychological problems with some things that happened to me, with some confusions with other pilgrims, some things that sometimes happens. But I was really struggling a lot about the thing. I didn't understand why that happened to me, what I did wrong to that thing to happen to me. So I was really struggling, and kind of 2 or 3 days after that, I was really in a bad place. In the fourth or third day, Tineo, I guess.
Ah, that's where we Tineo, absolutely. Yes.
It was in Tineo.
Well, Tineo is where the storm hit, and that's where we had to from there take the van.
Oh, okay. And in Tineo, we were at a place called the Palacio de Meras, and
That's where we stayed.
really nice. And in that day, I guess psychological for me was the worst day. I had to deal with the same pilgrims being there. I don't know. I was really struggling, and I was kind of in a place I didn't know what to do to get out of this. And suddenly, I was outside talking to a pilgrim, talking to a pilgrim.
Yep.
No, not talking to a pilgrim. Before that, I was kind of doing some thinking walk, just trying to realize what to do. And for being honest with you, it came out to my head to go back home and quit the Camino.
Aha. Wow.
But in that moment, when I was thinking in that, I was called for someone. There was a pilgrim that was outside. They called. He called me, and they called me, and just asked me, what has happened to you? What's going on? What's going on? So I kind of explained the situation to him, and he just give me like this. He just told me like something similar to this. Don't give matter to the things that doesn't matter. You know. And these words changed everything.
Good
These
for him.
words
Good for you.
changed everything. After that, I joined forces with him, with Rafael, with Guadalupe and Javier, all from Spain. We were from 4 different places on the Peninsula Iberica, and everything that of good that you can imagine that you could have on a Camino, it happened. It happened. It was it was everything, and that talk was the changing moment. So for me,
Yep.
Rafael, it was with Rafael from Sevilla. Rafael, it's a Camino angel for me. Do you know? Just the right words on the right moment.
Yep.
So
I get it.
that maybe because of that moment, the, that that Camino before after that moment, I really love the Primitivo. Uh, So
It's moments like that. It's moments like that that um, I hear you. I understand what you're, and not only that, you were about to face, you were about to go into what I'm told is the most beautiful part of the Camino Primitivo, which is Hospitales.
yeah, that stage with that people was outstanding, outstanding.
Yep.
I'm just saying outstanding, but even I cannot put it in words. What I feel, and what I feel, how I feel, in that stage. In that stage, it's I can't put it in words. It's just outstanding, amazing, unbelievable. I don't know. I don't know. It's just you just have to walk it if you can. If it's open, of course, you just have to walk.
Yep. Well, that's why.
Yeah, please
Go ahead.
No,
Well, that's exactly why. That's exactly right. Why we want to go back. We want to go back to the Camino Primitivo. We want to go back to that specific part of the Camino. We're going to start in Oviedo, but we're going to. But mainly, the idea is to now walk that portion of Hospitales to really complete the Camino Primitivo, but I mean the way it's supposed to be done on foot the entire way.
Or just do the thing that I will do in August if I am able. Just like Ricardo told us, just walk the Salvador and then the Primitivo.
That too. Yes. That too. Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to do in August if it's possible.
Really?
Yeah. And if it's possible, I'm already decided. That's my next Camino.
Wow. All right. Excuse me, you're going to go back and do the Primitivo?
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah.
No, I'm
But I thought you've already done it, right?
Yeah, but I'm going back again.
You're going to go back. Yeah.
But before I'll do the Salvador that starts in Leon and joins in Oviedo and finish in Oviedo on the Cathedral of Oviedo.
That's what Sergio says.
Yeah, and then in Oviedo start again the Primitivo, but I will change the finishing point. I will do something different.
I will tell you now where we went where we ended up.
Yeah, please.
We ended up in Castro Verde.
That's amazing.
Castro Verde.
That's amazing. I didn't say that, but I really a lot of good things about that place.
Well, but that was where I encountered a hospitalera who was really unpleasant.
So we went.
So that's when I said,
you have to go to the next one.
Yeah. So I just left. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not staying here. I mean, I was with these people, but I mean, I could, I was not committed to walk every entire thing. So I just turned around and left.
It's not a Camino, yeah.
Yeah. And so I walked out and I started walking, to continue the Camino without any idea of how far we were going to go. And I'll tell you how far we went. We went to a little town called Vilar de Cas. Vilar de Cas.
That I didn't know.
And there is a place called Apociña de Muñiz. Apociña de Muñiz. Which is one of the finest.
That I heard about it, yeah.
And Apociña de Muñiz is one of the finest albergues I have ever been on any Camino, without any question. And I won't read all of them to you, but each and every one of us spoke about why we were doing the Camino. And I will read you what Sergio said. He said, I came here with a full intention of traveling alone. It's not easy for me to establish close relationships with others. But on this walk, I have done just that, even with this gringo, patting my knee. We are not alone. And that was what best demonstrated by Jacques' kind gesture of walking back to find us when we were out on the road this evening. I was touched, he said, hand on his heart. Because when we were walking along, Jacques and Monica, his wife, were much faster than we were, much faster than I was, at least. And they went ahead and found this wonderful albergue. And then he came back to us and said, come ahead. It's only a couple of kilometers ahead. You have to stay at this place. And that's what happened.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for sharing.
Yep.
And
yes, sir.
That kind me open for my next questions. So,
which is,
of course, you. Where did you find the inspiration to write about the Camino?
Just my own experience, and I use a guide by John Brierley.
Ooh, who doesn't know John Brierley?
Except that he has not done a guide of the Primitivo. He's done the French and the Portuguese.
Del Norte, I guess, too.
But he has not done the Camino del Norte or I don't think he's done the Camino del Norte or the Primitivo, but he's certainly not done the Primitivo.
I guess it was the English one.
The English one he's done, maybe so.
Yeah.
He's done I think he's done Finiter and
En La Vía de la Plata, no?
Has he? I didn't know that.
I don't have certain about that, but I'll see that.
Okay.
That's nice. That's nice. So, like you said before, you dedicate your book to your friend Enrique Iglesias. Why?
Right.
Tell us about the book. Tell us about Enrique. Tell us about why you decided to pay homage to him.
Enrique Iglesias was the president.
Not the singer.
Not the singer. No. Enrique Iglesias, among other things, he is a Uruguayan. He was born in Spain. He was born in Arancedo, which is in Asturias, and he in 1930. So Enrique is about to turn, has turned 90. Yeah, and so he was the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, where I worked for almost 40 years. And he put a lot of faith in me by giving me wonderful positions, particularly as representative of the bank in Brazil, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Mexico. So he really contributed to a wonderful career for me and my family. It changed our lives. It enriched our lives. Our children were able to grow up and learn another 2 languages, several cultures, but also it gave me a wonderful career. That's number one. Number two, Enrique Iglesias is one of the leading lights of Latin America of the entire 20th century, and actually into the 21st century. I have rarely left his presence without feeling better informed and more inspired to understand Latin America and work for Latin America and work for development. The man has a clear vision of what it means to have equitable and sustainable development, good governance. So it was a combination of all of the above that led me to do this Camino in homage to him. That's why I call my book A Camino for Enrique. As I say, I began in Irún on the north, but then I cut down onto the Primitivo, and I took a day or so to go and visit his town where he was born, Arancedo. I did that. And then I completed the Camino all the way to Santiago in the name of Enrique Iglesias. And I said so, and I put it in writing, and I gave him the book. That's it.
That's really amazing. That's really amazing. But that is just not one of your books. Tell us about the other.
Well, another one, the first one I did was, the first one, actually, I did a previous book called, I even forget the name now, but then because I did the first piece of the Camino Portugués from Lisbon to Porto, which was really tough because I made some mistakes. There was this huge, this was 2016. And you might remember 2016, in August of 2016, there was this, it was extremely hot. There was this hot period. I mean, it went up to like 44 degrees centigrade. It was absolutely, and I had some tough times on that Camino. And I decided to stop after Porto. I came back in 2017 and finished it. And I wrote a book called Into Galicia. Yeah. So that speaks of my experience on the.
That is not on Amazon.
What's that?
I can find it in Amazon, that one.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you.
Really? Really?
And again, one of the beauties of that Camino was again the friendships that I established with some wonderful people, and also I I lived in Brazil. I was I what was that? A Camino for Enrique. There it is. Thank you very much. Wow, very good. Wow. Anyway, and so we had it was but also on the Portuguese route, I discovered once again the beauty of establishing relationships. And another thing is I lived in Rio de Janeiro in the late 40s and early 50s. And so I learned Portuguese, but I learned Carioca.
Yeah.
And I more or less, I understand Portuguese. I can read Portuguese. I speak Portuguese pretty well, but it needs work. But there's a huge difference between Carioca and the Portuguese of Portugal.
Yeah, it's really
huge, a huge difference between those two. And so I mean, first of all, whenever I open my mouth and spoke Portuguese, você é brasileiro. No, eu não sou brasileiro. No, sou americano. But anyway, I have enough of the accent and a few of the, I can keep up conversation, but if it gets really detailed, anyway, but I love playing with the language and enjoying the language. So that was another thing of going to Portugal. And in the process, I read, what is the name? Saramago. I read Saramago.
Yeah.
Saramago.
Our
As Pequenas Memórias. Yeah, As
novel,
Pequenas Memórias.
Our novel, yeah.
Yes, your Nobel, right? As Pequenas. And so I read this wonderful book, As Pequenas Memórias, which speaks actually to pieces that you go to on the Camino Portugués. So that's what that book. And then the other one is what is it called? Separate Paths, right? Separate Paths, different paths, separate paths.
Different.
And that is the story of with Ricardo Blanco. And with Ricardo, whom I love dearly, he is a brother. But when we started out with all sorts of wonderful expectations, but we had some very, very different ideas of how to do the Camino for a variety of reasons. And the book tells the story. So the book tells the story of how we tried to work it out together and then finally separated, and how ecstatic I felt to be alone, to actually finish the Camino alone, to go on to Finisterre alone. That was another moment to go out to Finisterre, Guilherme, is a gift. To go out to stand on the rocks there at the very tip, that was a gift. That was a magic moment as well. But then when I came back to Santiago after Finisterre, I thought, well, maybe because Ricardo had to suspend his trip because he was hurting. His Achilles tendon was hurting. And so when I got back to Santiago, I decided to see if he was there, and he was. And so we got together, we had lunch together, and basically, although we had a lot of differences and a lot of separation, but we cured it. We brought ourselves back together, and ever since then we have been entirely together. So that's basically the story.
That's really amazing. So kind of historical question. It's maybe hard for you. It's maybe hard for you, but if you had the opportunity to sit down and have a dinner and interview to a historical person of the Camino, not as historical from the history books from the 9th century, But even from a pilgrim that you met on the Camino, and you like to have the opportunity to talk to him, to interview, which pilgrim you choose?
Wow. Well, I will probably think of another name afterwards, but I think I would choose Paulo Coelho.
Ooh, nice.
I think I
Nice.
would choose Paulo. I think I would choose Paulo Coelho because he has really been the inspiration for the rebirth of the Camino in the late 20th, early 21st century. So that would be one. Another would be John Brierley.
Ooh,
Those two.
those two.
Those
Really,
two.
really nice answers. Really nice answers. Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. So imagine, let's imagine that, let's suppose that they are the remains of Saint James that are on that cathedral. Okay.
Okay.
Imagine that you had the opportunity to talk to him. Just ask a
Wow.
question. Just ask a question to Saint James. What question
Oh,
would you do?
I would want to know what life with Jesus was like. That's it, without any question. Without any question, I would say, tell us of your life with Jesus.
That's amazing.
What was it like to walk with him? It was without any question. That's what I would ask.
Really, really nice answer. Really nice answer. David, we are almost finishing up here, but one last question, okay?
Sure.
When you think, when you write, when you are on the Camino, what are your eyes saying to you?
When I'm writing about it,
Everything.
when
When are you talking about it? When are you writing about it? When are you thinking about it? When are you walking the Camino?
um, well, a couple of answers. First of all, there's nothing quite like Guillermo leaving Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to cross the Pyrenees. That is absolutely one of the most beautiful experiences of the entire Camino because you are faced with the biggest challenge, theoretically the biggest challenge, because it's a climb of 1,400 meters in one day. So to climb the Pyrenees, the Pyrenees that were crossed by Hannibal, that were crossed by Napoleon, and there you're walking up this beautiful, this beautiful walk. That's one thing. So that when I, for instance, sometimes when I'm going to sleep at night, I one of the ways that takes me to sleep is to imagine that I'm back on that stretch, walking up that piece. A second thing that are the friendships that I made, particularly with there are these three Catalan women that have become very, very close friends, although now by distance, but still. But when I go to Barcelona, I visit them and they visit me. And I think that the connection that I made with them, that moves my heart. I remember them dearly. So these are some of the pieces that remain in my heart with regard to the Camino. And there's a third thing, which is a little bit more remote, but I'll mention it anyway.
Yeah, please.
When I was 17, and I write about this in one of my books. When I was 17, I went to Pamplona, and I was
running with the bulls.
the running of the bulls in 1959, and Hemingway was there,
Oh, okay.
and he was sitting. You've been in Pamplona, no?
Yeah.
Okay, in the Plaza del Castillo, and he was sitting there, and I spoke with him 5 minutes. I spoke with Hemingway for 5 minutes, but it made a connection with the man, with the place, with the experience that will never leave me. And so there's a lovely piece of this entire walk that brings me back to 1959, which is what, how many, more than 60 years ago. And if you go to Bourget is the first town after Roncesvalles. And there's a place called Hotel Bourget. And by the way, in A Sun Also Rises, Hemingway writes of taking a break from Pamplona and going with a friend of his to go up and fish in the mountains of the Pyrenees. And this is where he stayed. This is where he stayed. And there's a piano there. There's a piano there, and etched. It's scratched on the piano the name of Hemingway. Now, I'm not, the owner of the hotel says that was really Hemingway that wrote that, that read it there. But anyway, whether it was or not, one of the lovely connections that is fun to make is to go back and touch base with those pieces of A Sun Also Rises that was one of the most important novels of the 20th century. So that's another memory.
That's really outstanding. That's amazing. That's amazing. So David, thank you so much for doing this to me. It was really, really a pleasure. And really, you have a friend in me. Anything you need that I can do you some information about anything, please just be free to ask. And I hope that someday we can meet on the Camino, just
I would love
to pay you some beers.
I would love it. Thank you, Guillermo. You're great to do this. And by the way, let me just finish by saying,
yeah, please.
I'm about to establish a website, a blog, and I've given it a name, and I hope it works. I worked on this for a long time. I have a friend who's developing the blog, the website. I will let you know about it as soon as it's been launched. I would love for you to contribute to it. It's a way to share experiences, to share, thoughts, photos, hopes for the future with regard to the Camino.
Of course. I'll really be glad to help.
And the name that I have given it is Camino Cando. And where I gave Camino Cando
is really amazing.
Well, thank you. Which is comunicando sobre el camino is Camino Cando.
That's amazing.
Así que, yeah, I hope it works. Thank you. I'll let you know when it's launched.
Please, I'll be really, really glad to help.
Okay, man.